Whether or not you're vegan, whether or not you listen to hip-hop music, this video has a real simple message you can put together 5-10 seconds. Styles P is vegan. Elon Musk is not. Sam Harris is not. Richard Dawkins is not. You may not recognize any of the names I just threw out there. Who's Styles P? Styles P is a rapper. He is a hip-hop artist. He is an entertainer. He is also painfully honest in interviews about his own criminal background, a life spent being in and out of jail, a life spent being involved with violence, and negotiating deals through lawyers to avoid spending too much time in jail because of that violence. I think if you watch any interview with him, you'll get a sense of his own level of education, of the kind of background he comes out of, and why he brings the type of energy he does to his music and his career. Styles P is, to say the least, an unpretentious guy. In terms of the excuses people make for not being vegan, or the reasons people give to kind of reproach vegans for being privileged or representing an unattainable goal for poor, downtrodden, uneducated people, Styles P is a really interesting counterexample. A couple years ago, about a year and a half ago now, actually, I think, I Googled around for some interviews with Styles P where he talked about being vegan. And at that time, I mean, the interviews might have been out of date already, but he went through a period, you know, as he tells it, he was in and out of jail, he got out of jail, he tried being vegan, at some point he slid back, and he was just eating turkey meat, but no other kind of meat. He went through, he went through a process. And still to this day, he doesn't really shout out his veganism. I did go around just the other week when I Googled to update my knowledge on this. There were some current interviews where he does say he is vegan. He owns a fruit juice shop in addition to being a recording artist. And he is vegan in his diet. I would assume that, like most performers, he still wears leather, that kind of thing. So he's not really repping the vegan cause. However, that's not the point of this video. A guy like Styles P, with all the disadvantages his background brings, and one of the things he said in terms of his own path to being vegan was that he was on a bus one time on the middle of a tour, performing music, and he looked out of the bus and he saw the cows lined up to get slaughtered, and he just happened to get a view through a chain link fence, and he just thought, that's not right, and he started taking steps towards being vegetarian and vegan. As I mentioned, he didn't do it overnight. Look, if you've never heard who Styles P is, my point is not that he's a genius. My point is not that he's a natural community leader. It's the opposite. He's exactly the type of guy most people disrespect or have trouble respecting, coming out of a really troubled background. But he put the pieces together. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not immediately, but he went vegan. Not just for his health, not just to lift more weight or get thinner or whatever it was, but even he, looking out the window of a tour bus with other things on his mind, he happened to glimpse cows going to the slaughter, and he thought, this isn't right, there's something I can do about it, and he started to make a change. Richard Dawkins, scientist with a PhD, author of many books on many subjects, lifetime of research on animal behavior, animal intelligence, lifetime of making statements about animal cruelty, not vegan, never even tried to be vegetarian. And the guy's done all these interviews and made all these statements. He encourages other people to be vegetarian and vegan, but he doesn't do it himself. Richard Dawkins, people think this guy is a genius. And I don't blame him for this. In terms of his public persona, he presents himself as a genius. He presents himself as a community leader, as a kind of atheist messiah in a lot of ways, and that's cool. But he doesn't practice what he preaches, And for a man in his position, with his background, his education, with his money, with his leisure, it's not hard to be vegan. It's easier for him than it is for Styles P. Think about Styles P getting out of jail and trying to put himself back on a vegan diet. Richard Dawkins doesn't have it that hard. He's not in that struggle. Richard Dawkins, I'm sure he's got his own struggle. He's writing an autobiography in several volumes these days. It's not that struggle. Sam Harris is another would-be 21st century philosopher, leader of public opinion, makes statements on all kinds of ethical issues. I guess you could say he presents himself as an ethical philosopher in our times. And that's cool. If you Google for 5 seconds, Sam Harris vegetarian, one of the first results you're going to get is Sam Harris on YouTube explaining how he tried to be vegetarian, but he failed because he just didn't feel he was getting enough protein. He sounds like an idiot. Simplest explanation is that he really is an idiot. Like, you, Sam Harris, with your PhD and your career and your life as an author and an intellectual, you can't figure out a vegan diet? Styles P's got it figured out, man. Styles P beat that murder charge, beat that stabbing charge. Like, seriously, Styles P, you can look it up. He's made public statements about this whole, criminal history and all his court cases. He doesn't even claim he's innocent, Styles P got it figured out, man. Sam Harris, you gave up. You couldn't even be vegetarian, let alone vegan, because you couldn't figure out how to get enough protein. Man, why didn't you apply for a research grant? If you really can't figure it out, you have access to research facilities, man. You got research assistants who you can send to the library to look it up for you. You don't even have to do it yourself. You can delegate that task. Sam Harris can't figure it out. Styles P's got it figured out. All right? This is in 2015. Okay? Elon Musk. Who's Elon Musk? Elon Musk is not a millionaire. He is a billionaire. His fortune is measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Elon Musk has paid more money in alimony settlements to his ex-wives than most millionaires will ever earn. Okay? This is a guy who spends tens of millions and hundreds of millions. Not hating on it. Good for you, Elon Musk. What's the issue he's supposed to be a leader of public opinion in? Again, people regard him as a genius, and not without reason. Self-made millionaire, inventor, entrepreneur, technologist, impressive man of learning, a captain of industry. He's supposed to be a leader on ecological issues, on global warming, on environmental issues, on energy consumption. I could paste in the still frame here of him taking questions to the audience, and someone asked him, "Yeah, you did all this work on electrical cars and these related technology, but isn't there something else you could do to reduce your environmental impact? Couldn't you change your diet?" The question is kind of leading him on. He says he tried being vegetarian, but he just couldn't do it. Elon Musk, you've got hundreds of millions to burn. Like me, even when I have money, I really don't like to waste money. For me, it was very hard to be vegan in Saskatchewan, where the only fruits and vegetables you can get are imported from Mexico at a very high price. So the cost of a head of broccoli compared to the cost is really high and the quality is really low. And I'm standing there looking at it, and I know what it was like to live in places like Cambodia and Thailand where fruit and vegetables are really cheap, of course, and you just, your heart sinks at having to spend so much money to have such a poor diet as a vegan when you live in a place like Saskatchewan. It's tough for me. Elon Musk, you're supposedly a genius. You have hundreds of millions of dollars to burn, and you live in California, and you can't figure it out. You can figure out how to put a man in space. He owns a private space exploration company, a space transport company, orbit company, whatever you want to say. You can figure out how to mass manufacture electrical cars and preach that as an environmental cause. You can't figure it out. Hey man, Styles P got it figured out. Think about it.